5 laps, 10 kilometres. Great category of motor racing, and about to get underway with Paul Bottomley in 25 on the outside of the front row, Paul Bailey in 70 on pole position, Roger Hurd's in 92, David Wrigley's in 17, Leon Bell in 86 and Derek Yude in 93. John Talbot's in 65, Roger Burden in 12, Graham Russell in 61, and to his left on the grid is Lance Bennett in 30, Spinner Bennett. On the next row, Peter McCulloch in 94 as they get away now. A tremendous cheap fun category of motor racing that's given the chance for a lot of officials to go motor racing. A lot of people who were spectators only a few years ago when this started in Tasmania in 1988. Great stuff, Keith Midgley. I think you'd agree as a commentator in Tasmanian motor racing. It's really revitalised the sport here initially, but then on the mainland.
It certainly has, Will. Tasmanian motorsport would be a lot poorer if we didn't have the HQs, because as you just mentioned, a lot of the competitors are former officials, with people like Paul Bailey had retired from motor racing and came back to this class.
Bailey's in number 70, but Paul Bottomley doing the job at the moment in 25. A pretty competitive category too.
Yes, it is. We can see with 20 cars or so on the grid, we've had up to 35 entries, and the first couple usually are pretty close together, but there's a whole bunch of cars, and one slight mistake and you're last.
Very close together here as they're relying on old Holden Kingswood disc front brakes, drum rear down the end of the straight here at Baskerville, getting around only about 4 seconds faster than the quickest trucks, and a packed field of cars that look like a pile of taxis all going for the one radio call. End of first lap, 4 remaining. Great circuit, Baskerville, up over the hill, relying on buffed Goodyear Ducaro road tyres, and still Bottomley in 25 doing the job. Bottomley married yesterday to Katrina, so he didn't take part in yesterday's race late, but 23-year-old plumbing contractor from North Tasmania, I think. Have I got that right, Keith Midgley?
No, he is from Hobart, Will, and he's a former Tasmanian Formula V champion as well, so sort of switched from Vs to Qs, and the HQs have really been called Formula Vs on with a body.
And indeed, old cars, Holden made something like 500,000 of the variants that were the HQ Holden and the luxury derivatives of it. Well, Bottomley unaffected by his honeymoon, if that's what he had last night. No, got himself covered, got himself very nearly successfully challenged, 70. Paul Bailey still can't find a way around Bottomley in 25. Over the top of the hill here, and Bottomley's in the right spot, Bailey's in the wrong one, because he's both in second and was on the outside. And Baskerville circuit, probably unknown to a lot of people on the mainland, but Keith, like, I've seen a lot of Australian racetracks, and you have too, and this really is one of the interesting ones with its rises and falls, plenty of twists, plenty of different alignments in corners that make it a real driver challenge.
Yes, it certainly is, Will. As the cars crest the top of the hill, the corner is actually blind, and Alan Moffat in one of his...
Oh, and so's that driver, nearly, and he goes across the rest of the field. Roger Hurd, who in fact won easily yesterday. Here's how it all happened. And about 6 hearts behind him was suddenly going, oh dear. And luckily he corrected and ran himself off the track, and he got clear, and they were able to pull up fast enough that, unbelievably almost, nobody else hit him, or didn't seem to. They might have tapped him, but they didn't really hit him.
The class actually, Will, has been known for a lot of bipping and bashing going on, and many of the drivers have been hauled over the coals by stewards, and they've actually cleaned up their driving style a lot, and you see a lot of close racing now without very much panel damage.
Paul Bailey now doing the job over the recently married Mr. Bottomley, who's coming back at him though, and he's going to slipstream him now. Says that's the way to go. And indeed, around some parts of Baskerville circuit, you need to tuck in behind the other car. Not only some of the corners tight, but then there's a succession of left and right-hand corners that mean, really, that you need to optimise your line. That means you can't be too abreast. Round now to complete lap 3. 2 remaining in this pedal suspension race for HQs. And like a lot of the people, it's dragged them out of the crowd. It's recreated a life for a lot of these old motor cars. Some 20 years old, but the class, I really commend it. It's being well run. They're making sure that the cars out there aren't junk, aren't rusty, aren't unsafe. They're sealing them and scrutineering them to make sure of safety, but to make sure also of evenness for competitors. So they've all got 3-speed gearboxes, for instance, old red 6-cylinder 202 Holden motors. And it really is ridiculously low cost and yet reasonably quick motor racing. It's amazingly good. Lots of fun. Spectators love it, so do the competitors. And through Australia, there's now more than 300 of them. Category that started here as a way of keeping Tasmania alive in a motor racing sense, because there's not a lot of people, a lot of money to go motor racing down here, particularly in the tough economic times we're having. Paul Bottomley being treated a little bit less kindly than he was at his wedding last night by Mr. Bailey in 70, who comes around now and completes the 5th lap and is victorious therefore in that pedal suspension race. Bottomley in 25 second. Racing it is. And the flag down sends them all away for a pile of mayhem and madness in cars that 20 years ago people were very proud to buy and take the family out in for a country drive. Now they're being monstered, as you can see, and I reckon they'll be able to keep going because that's at the tail end of the field, and I think they'll sort it out. And there's another one that's been treated badly, no more badly probably than the previous 300,000 kilometres that the car's probably done. Let's have a look and see how it all happened. Oh, the mobile car in and then hit up the tail. Really bad luck. It'll probably cost him hundreds of dollars to fix that damage. It's a red flag further up the track. All ready now for the restart, minus 3 cars. Away they get then, 16 cars from the original 19-car grid, and still a 10-lap race, 20 kilometres around Baskerville. And I don't imagine it'll be any less frantic for the absence of 3 vehicles, see what I mean? And, well, just a realignment of the circuit, really, but everybody chasing. Paul Bottomley, fresh from his wedding last night in the Tas Protect car. And I imagine that it's the new bride, Katrina, who's watching very anxiously from the sidelines, the man that she thought last night was going to be spending the day on the honeymoon. Strange set of priorities, Keith Midgley, among some HQ Holden race drivers.
Yes, certainly will, but it runs in the family. Paul's sister, Michelle, got married just before the February Baskerville meeting on the Saturday night and came out here and ran her Formula V on the Sunday.
Roger Hurd there in 92. He was the man that was so successful earlier in the day. The street sedan race. Sports sedan race.
Street car.
Street car, thank you. We've sorted it out. Now they're chasing Bottomley, completing 1 lap in behind Paul Bailey. Hurd's in 92, well placed. He's in 3rd place at the moment. 17 is Wrigley. He's in 4th behind them. Don't relax, fellas, because there's a big hot field hot on your hammer. 3-speed gearboxes, front disc brakes. I said it'd be on, and it is, and it's Burden in 12. One of the miscreants out there in the boondocks. Fairly dry around the Baskerville circuit. Not a lot of rain in Tasmania in recent times, as indeed on a lot of the mainland too. But a very good little racetrack. I really remain quite a fan. 94 McCullough is out, Peter. But these guys aren't. In fact, they're not out, they're into it. Down the end of the straight, trying desperately to stop on the drum brakes that General Motors supplied for them and the discs that were thrown on the front of the cars. And, well, it's easy to describe. They're having a ball. Paul's Bottomley and Bailey in 25 and 70, fighting out for the lead. And then in 92 is Roger Hurd, the multicoloured car, very nicely presented, and Wrigley back there in 17. And here's a man concentrating, who obviously drank little and got to bed early after his wedding last evening. Roger Hurd there, 92, darting between two categories here at Baskerville, street cars and also HQ Holdens. There he is, third place. As colourful as a rainbow, but much faster. Well, what can they do under brakes? Bottomley in command, and Mr. Bailey in 70. Can't find an answer, so he's going to leave it till a little while later, at least, as they complete 3 laps, to see if he can mount a charge somewhere, be more effective than on the previous lap. Hurd and Wrigley in 92 and 17 in close company in 3rd and 4th place, as indeed the leading pair are. And 93, Dale Yude, is in 5th, lurking in behind them. But good battle going on here for the lead between Bottomley and Bailey. 25 versus 70. Storming up the hill. I don't know if that's the way General Motors would have seen it when they first made the red-motored 202 HQ Holden, of which some 500,000 were built, including in their luxury versions. But clambering their way up the hill anyway, across the top, and then praying to the good Lord and everybody else to see if they could stop at the bottom on the outside of the track. Here's Bailey, but he's badly positioned and he won't be able to stay there, so he has to give way to Bottomley. And breaking away slightly back in 3rd place in this 10-lap race is Mr. Hurd. Getting away a little bit from Wrigley and Dale Yude in 93, Wrigley's in 17. Can he do anything over the next 6 laps, 4 completed in this 10-lap race, to get up with the race leaders? He won the warm-up race here yesterday. That was a 10-lap scratch race, so he was good over 10 laps. But then again, Mr. Bottomley had gone to the wedding reception, hadn't he? The man that's leading at the moment. Now, he wasn't there yesterday. He wasn't here, he was there. Oh, Goodyear Ducaro's being tortured everywhere around the circuit. Tyre squeal, and Bailey now, more serious, starts to get ahead, but not early enough, and he wouldn't dare come across the front of Mr. Bottomley's car there, because he'd have been spun for sure. And so again, Bottomley prevails over Bailey. 25 leads 70. They come round, they go to half race distance. 5 completed out of 10. Roger Hurd, 3rd place. Car 92, 17 in 4th place, Doug Wrigley. David Wrigley, I should have said. Whatever, he's getting a wriggle on. But nobody with an answer against the power, the preparation and the sorting of Paul Bottomley in 25. Better under brakes is Bailey, and all he's got to try and do is get everything right for the run onto the straight. That's where he's doing it wrong, because he's not close enough here, and he needs then just to tuck his nose down the inside, well covered by Paul Bottomley, and get in on the left-hand side. If he can do that, he'll win the corner and perhaps win the race. So he needs to concentrate more in the run onto the straight. Lurking up close here doesn't matter very much, except that he's putting a lot of pressure, is Mr. Bailey on Mr. Bottomley. Further back, Roger Hurd is 3rd in 92, and in close company, Wrigley and Yude in 17 and 93, respectively. But Paul Bailey in 70, he's got to get it right up near the top of the straight, and I think you'd agree, Keith Midgley, as a Baskerville specialist, that that's where you've got to optimise everything across the top here.
You certainly do, Will, because these cars do not have an excess of power, and if you're slow anywhere, it affects your run on the straight. So Bailey needs the fastest possible run down the straight around the top part of the circuit to be able to make an impression under brakes at the end of the main straight.
He's good through there this time. He's well positioned. He's gone the wrong side again, though. But he did it early, and if he can just get far enough down, he might make it. He'll have to be brave. and he can't do it. He didn't get far enough ahead. I'd love to whisper in his ear, go down the left side. And if you can get in there, Bottomley is covering it very well as they come around now to complete 7. 3 remain. But Bailey's just got to try and get the nose in there as soon as possible as they come out of that corner. The trouble is, of course, that the natural flow, if you're trying to come onto the straight faster than the other guy, is you'll run wider than he does, and it'll lead you to the wrong side, the right-hand side of his car as they come down the straight. The thing they need is for the straight to go the other direction when they get to the bottom. But it don't. So there's his problem. That's 4th place, David Wrigley. 17. Running a nice sort of a race in behind Roger Hurd in 92 and not far in front of 93, Dale Yude. He's 5th. Well, here comes the leading battle again. This is lap 8.
Super hard to make out. Now he's not in position this time round. It doesn't look like. When you go to that absolute blinder on the brake, the old beachy brake service is there. No pretty in the knee back space.
What about Keith Mayer? Yes, I was going to say, what about if he pretended to duck around the outside, hung back and tried to nose it in on the left, but then you're the wrong way for the run up through here, aren't you?
Yes, both of these competitors, Will, are very experienced. Both are former Tasmanian Formula V champions. Paul Bailey was one of the first people into HQ racing in the Ian Beachy HQ. Paul Bottomley, I think, joined the class about in his 2nd year. Paul Bottomley has a lot of experience in HQs because he also has one based on the mainland.
Okay, so they know well about getting past, but they know the problems too of wrestling with 20-year-old motor cars on buffed road radials, both with virtually identical gearboxes, engines, braking systems and so on. So it's as even motor racing as you can possibly get. All the bravery that Paul Bailey can show in car 70 is not quite enough. It's 1 car length good enough, but it's not 2, and he needs 2. Now he's dropping back. Is he going to fudge and come quickly into the left? He's going to try it, but I reckon Mr. Bottomley knows all about that too. So they come round to complete lap 9 to go out on the final. And indeed, we've got it wrong because it's the checkered flag. So the Wins HQ Holden Series final round, 8 in the series, won by Paul Bottomley just a few hours after his wedding last evening